Let's get into Salt Lake City. Chris, what were your thoughts on this?
So Salt Lake City, first and foremost, so Heather, right off the bat, because I forgot is it? Or is it not Heather? It was the blonde girl who went on the podcast.
Oh, Whitney.
Oh, is that Whitney?
So Whitney goes on Meredith's podcast with her husband.
Oh, okay. Now I'm noticing the difference. Okay, yeah. So Whitney, if you would have shown me Whitney and her husband and told me nothing about them, I would have thought Whitney is still very close with her father. They just know, like, it was very like she screams those people, you know, who go from being daddy's girl to daddy's girl, if you get what I'm saying. And it was just that, just seeing that was what her husband was. That's not what I was expecting at all. And he screamed what you were talking about earlier of like those dudes who are like, this whole thing's beneath me. I don't want to be here. Looks very uncomfortable on camera. And that whole podcast altogether was so, it almost felt like when a TV show, like the characters in the TV show are starting a podcast. Like all I could think about was when, I don't know if y'all watch It's Always Sunny, but when Dennis and Dee try to start a podcast and Dennis is just over the top being like, yeah, I hear that there's a war going on. Can you tell us that the husband had that energy so much? And it was just so, that whole shit was like weird. And then I understand this was editing, but it was just still funny to see, to be like, hey, what's like the freakiest thing you've done? Oh, you had sex under his desk? That's hilarious. Anyway, what's the most traumatic thing that's ever happened to you?
Yeah.
Like, that was, like, I'm sure they edited that together and there was some more stuff in between. But that was some real Oprah shit where it was just like Oprah would be like, everyone gets a new car. Hell yeah, we're going to go to commercial break. And then they come back from commercial break and they'll be like, 1 million children die from hunger every year. And it's just like, Jesus, Oprah, we were just giving away cars. What are we doing here? So that was wild. And then the whole, whatchamacallit, when Heather, now I have the right lady this time, when Heather was on the phone with her daughter and was being like, yo, we need to like, you need to remember the day that the church was founded. And then she's just like, it brings me so much joy to force my daughter to learn about her Mormon culture. And I immediately thought, you are lucky you have money, because if you did not, she would never come home for Christmas ever again. You are so lucky she needs to be on that will, because she would never answer your calls. She would not come home for Thanksgiving. If she was pregnant, you would find out on Instagram and not through a text message. That was very, and then the whole group outing at the end where making them wear bonnets, which all of them did not want to do at all. And just the argument between Lisa and Monica at the very end. And then I forget who it was, but one of the women was standing up and she just breaks the glass on the floor.
Yeah, and yells Opa, but not like celebratory Opa. It's just like a commanding Opa.
Like that moment, if I was there, I would have been like, bitch, there goes our security deposit. Like, why are you doing that shit? But that was really, those were the big things that and then I know, which housewife was it where she had a whole, it was Angie, where like her and her husband had a whole conversation at dinner. And it just went into like this whole, like, we don't have sex anymore and like we need to connect again. And at first I thought they're gonna have like a fight, and then they were like mature about it, where they're like, okay, well, what do we need to do to like rekindle this? And it's just like, we need to spend more time together and all that. And I was like thrown off because I was waiting for there to be this big thing, and it's just like, oh, y'all are being adults about this. Like, okay, all right, cool. No, great for y'all, boring for me, but yeah, great for y'all, I guess.
But he's
But
not in a position to like have a fight over this, because there's all sorts of rumors like swirling about his like sexuality and how he's got like men all around town, and so he's got to like play the game now.
interesting.
Yeah, it was a very awkward and loaded dinner in
No wonder he's
in
so
my
busy.
read.
He's slinging dick around town.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, and then also another moment that I thought was fun was when Monica was talking about her family with her daughter, and she busts out the photo albums, and she does that thing that old people love to do, where it'll be like, "Back in my day, we didn't have this, we had these." Where she was like, "Back in my day, we didn't have cameras, or no,
Yeah.
we didn't have phones, we had cameras," and it's like, we know what cameras are, okay.
Yeah.
Young people know what cameras are. Honestly, cameras and Polaroid pictures making a comeback right now, so people are aware. You don't have to explain what a photo album is. It's not like a fax machine. Like we know, or it's not like a landline. Like we know what it is. And then it was so funny. She just kept going on and like, we had photo albums and we had to put all of our photos in this album. And the daughter was like, just show me the goddamn album. Like it was so funny to me, where she's just like, fucking, I get it, I'm younger, just show me the photos already. But yeah, those were really like out of the episode, those were the big moments that really stood out to me.
Sandy, how about you?
Yeah, I definitely noted Angie's date. Definitely awkward. Maybe like a little bit, like it was kind of relatable, you know, like, I don't know, maybe too relatable. Like, I don't really want to watch a bunch of people try to get the spice back in their marriage on these shows. Like, there's kind of a lot of that, especially on this one, because Whitney and her husband, her older husband, are kind of doing the same, and it's like, blah. But I did like when Angie was saying, like, I don't even know you. I don't even know what kind of music you listen to. And he's like, I listen to country. You know, and she's like, well, it's very annoying. Country is very annoying. So she did know. She just hates his music. And then he says he also hates her music. And then she gets really upset about that. I'm not really upset, but a little upset. And this also led to
they argue about the Humpty Dance.
Yeah, my musical education, because I now know what the Humpty Dance is. I watched almost all of the video. So that was nice for me. And I just kind of pictured her bopping in her car to that, which is cute. And other highlight was a quote. I had a few quotes this round, because Monica, when she was being incredibly childish and overdramatic at the Pioneer dinner, which is her signature behavior, and I'm okay with that for the show, she was, you know, the whole thing, and just being such a baby as always. And then when they're trying to announce this trip that is like her joint trip with Heather, and she's backing out of it, she's like, and Heather's like, why don't you explain where we're going? And I guess it's like her home. Did she used to live in Bermuda or something? There's whatever. She has
she went there every summer or something. Yeah.
She's like, we're all going home to hell, to the Bermuda Triangle where we all belong. And I like that as a little moment of drama that she brought. I like that quote. So I appreciated that. And then my last thing was, like, we've seen Monica's house before, and Monica is sort of this, she's a new housewife. She's in a lower socioeconomic bracket than the rest. Maybe has fallen, maybe was probably a lot richer before her divorce. I don't really know, but just kind of got an outside shot of her house. And I was like, woo, like, not just house shame, because that could be anyone's house. That could be my house. But I was like, that is not the average Real Housewives house. And I'm interested in both your opinions on like what it brings to these shows to have like one housewife who's relatively speaking poor, like absolutely not actually poor, but, you know, relatively speaking. We see that in a few other franchises too. Do you think it adds something, or is it a weird imbalance, or I don't know? I'm not sure where I stand on it.
I like it because it, you know, it gives, in a lot of cases, like, when they come on in that position, they have this new platform, and we get to see them like grow with that. Like, they start amassing, like, you know, partnerships, and, you know, whatever, they launch business ventures, and we get to see them them grow and like become more like independently wealthy. So yeah, I like seeing that because it also adds just a little bit of a benchmark. Someone that has like a level of wealth that is more like comprehensible to the average audience member, and you can kind of see like what their position is and how they operate within the social circles that they wouldn't otherwise be welcome in. So seeing a housewife navigate the like the high wealth socialite functions that they put on and get invited to, I find that really interesting as well.
Yeah, I think I don't know. It is kind of like, for example, uh Whitney, like when she was talking about how like when she first met her husband was just like a housewife and then now runs her own businesses and stuff. Like it is like for someone like me who's a newcomer, and like I know so little about the franchises, like my impression of this show is just like, oh, they all just have a rich husband. So seeing them kind of navigate their own space in their own identity, like now knowing that a lot of them are like going through divorces and stuff, it's kind of interesting to see kind of like, and I'm sure like as this has probably happened on the show before, of like you see them find themselves and like, who am I now that I'm no longer attached to this person? Or even if they're still married, like, who am I? How can I be my own thing rather than just my husband is rich or my partner is rich?
Yeah, totally.
So like with Monica, for example, like it sounds like, yeah, like she went through a divorce or something, but like she's still trying to like be a mom and like raise her kids and like be her own thing. And I think it's just interesting to kind of see that when most of them, like, it's just like they're their own person, and then they're like they have like their rich little husband behind them. So it is cool to kind of see them like on screen, like figure out, who am I? Like, how can I be my own thing? How can I be my own entity where I can say I can stand on my own rather than just like I'm only here because of someone else?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, totally. Sandy, did you have any other highlights from Salt Lake City?
No, I think that was it.
Cool. Yeah, I want to go back to the Pioneer lunch. So the bonnets were amazing. I can't believe that it's season 4 and it took until now to get this, because that is just like so hilarious to see them argue in these bonnets. And Angie with her crazy Star Trek like sunglasses in them was such a look. I loved it. Yeah, and the way that Monica behaved, Sandy, you touched on, but one thing that I feel like we're getting repeatedly with Monica this season is like she is reverting into this like childlike state in any conflict. Like we saw that with her and Lisa a couple episodes where they clashed at Whitney's like business event, and we saw that when she felt like ganged up on at this Pioneer lunch, she like immediately shut down and was like, well, I'm not going to go on the trip. And like you said, she was like, well, we're going to hell, Bermuda Triangle, and just like seemed very much like how a kid or a teenager would interact. And it's interesting to see her respond this way, because it is so unlike the way that most housewives handle conflict on these shows, because they're playing the game, they're like trying to gain like a position or like use it strategically, or they've got some sort of angle. But with Monica, it's just, it feels like this pure emotional response in these situations that like stems from the fact that she's got this like toxic relationship with her mother, and up until this point all the conflict in her life came from this relationship that she has with her mother. And so to see her be like, this is how I know how to fight, it is by like being me as a child in this like child parent relationship. And to see her do that with all these other women who aren't necessarily all that much older, but they are of like a higher echelon of like social status, and so they do have this other form of leverage, and she is treating them like like a parental figure, and how she's like interacting and reverting into a child. I thought that was like a really interesting contrast to how we see a lot of housewives navigate these situations on these shows. So Monica, we found out on social media, got like first chair at the reunion. So she's sitting right beside Andy, and that's something that doesn't happen very frequently for like a first time housewife, and she fully deserves it this season because I think she's been like bringing it in so many different ways. I think we're just continuing to see a performance from her that is so compelling. I love Monica this season, and even if it's not the most like strategic or like she's not the best like pot stirrer or anything, it seems so honest, and I hope that she's back next season.
Yeah, me too. Totally agree.
Well, so I almost forgot at the bonnet thing. Was it Heather who asked? Like the whole fight happens because it was Heather who was like, "Let's play this game," and I feel like she deserves the blame for the bonnet fest turning terrible because that was a messy as fuck question to ask.
Yeah.
We're on the fucking whatever it's called, the boomer sumer vehicle, and we only have so much weight, and someone has to get kicked off. Who do you kick off? Bitch, you knew what was going to happen asking that question.
Well, it's like you were saying earlier, Chris, like there's this template to these get-togethers, and the only thing you didn't mention was I've got a game, and it's always this kind of game. So if anything, if all else fails, you pull out the game. Yeah.
That's what it was. Heather was like, "Oh, we're being cordial. We're having fun. We made a couple jerk off jokes because we had to churn the butter. Okay. All right. Well, cool. Time to fucking be a bitch and create some mess." And I love how that was the first question too. Like she didn't even ease into it with like an easy one. It was just right out of the gate. Hey, who are you throwing off the wagon? And just, it was funny too because you saw Lisa almost hold back, and then she was just like, "Monica," because she's nasty. And then there was like something that Monica said back to Lisa, and she almost went like, "Yeah, and like almost brushed it off. And then like a second later was like, "Actually, you know what, bitch?" And it just like goes off on her. Truly, Heather, you knew what you were doing. You think you slick, but I saw straight through your actions. I knew what you were up to.
I think this was an example of like producers showing their hand, because a lot of times when we get like one of these games show up, they will have like a set of questions that could actually go around the table a little bit, like where, everyone is able to like say something that might not trigger a blow up, but it's going to be something that's going to like start like a little bit of problems between people and like seed some resentment. But the questions will go around the table, so we'll get like an entire round. But this was just like, it was like T-ball. It was like, who would you drown, Lisa? And Lisa's like, "Well, I support women, so I would throw off the person who doesn't support women, Monica, obviously."
I forgot about that, because when she was leading up with that, I was like, "Oh shit, we're about to have a cordial ass answer." When she was just like, "I support women," so I thought she's gonna like, "I support women, so I'm gonna take one for the team and I'm gonna knock myself out."
Yeah.
But then she went with the "I support women, so because of that, I would throw Monica off because she doesn't support women because she's nasty." Just truly a work of art that deserves an Oscar.
Yeah, so good. And I love how like hung up Lisa is still about this like Ted Bundy comment. She's like so upset that not that Monica compared her mother to Ted Bundy, but that she then compared Lisa to her mother and is like so offended by this. I thought that was amazing.
And Whitney on her talking head just being like, listen, I don't know much about serial killers, but I'm pretty sure it was Jeffrey Dahmer who ate people and not Ted Bundy, which is just so true epitome of white people culture, where someone, when brought up, first off, serial killers were brought up. And then two, someone had a well actually moment about serial killers. I'm just like, I don't mean to nitpick, but Ted Bundy never ate anybody. I'm just saying.
It's funny because in my notes I've got like, Lisa, you basically said she killed people and had sex with them and ate them, and I've got a note that says that wasn't Bundy, was it? And then immediately, oh, Whitney says exactly that. So I'm guilty.
In y'all's defense, I also, when heard that, I'm like fairly sure he didn't eat anybody. I'm like fairly sure, only because like I have a joke in my comedy about serial killers, and I've done that joke for years. And almost always, 90% of the time, I will have a person after the show approach me and give me facts about serial killers that I never asked for, that I never wanted. I would have people correct me when I misspeak on facts about various, like, for example, I think one time I was like, Ted Bundy killed 36 people, and this woman approached me after the show very upset, being like, actually he had 40 unconfirmed kills and this many kills. You need to get your numbers right if you're gonna. I'm like, why are you? I need you to take a step back and repeat what you said, but listen to how stupid you sound, because you're correcting me on a murderer right now. So
I love baseball, but like there's some baseball fans that are like that with stats where they'll like, well, actually about like a batting average or, whatever. And yeah, I can totally see someone doing that about a serial killer's like body count.
So they're like, actually he killed 40. He killed more than one. That's why does the number matter? The fact that when your murder count is not 0, why are we arguing about the semantics here? What are we doing?
For a joke purpose, like also, right? Like your joke probably works either way.
Exactly. If I was making right, like if I was making a documentary, then yeah, like I get that. But I'm just doing yucks for people who are on first dates trying to fuck. Like I don't think we need to argue about numbers right now.
Amazing. The other scene that I had like written down here was this discussion between Lisa and Heather, which I didn't think was like particularly interesting. It was definitely like just setting up this scene that we're getting at the Pioneer lunch and kind of getting laying the groundwork for where Lisa stands with Monica and this new unsteady alliance between Lisa and Heather. But they made the most of it by having this like huge spread of Wendy's, which was just like visually so bizarre to see them like picking out on like fast food. And I know that this is like a character trait of Lisa Barlow, that she loves like fast food and whatever, but it was just a visually like really interesting choice for me.
Okay, so I didn't know that about Lisa. I thought like, okay, this is the most blatant product placement I've ever seen in my entire life. But that makes sense, that she's always been about the fast food life.